So what is up, guys? You got your boy Jet Stingren here today, and today we are back with some reverse 1999 content here today, and today we're going to be doing our best to teams for Semmelweis. I've been waiting to do this video because I wanted to wait to see who was officially in the game. Now she's in the game, I can give you guys some good teams, of course some free-to-play options as well, of course some helpful recommendations, and without further ado, let's talk about the teams and why they work and so on. Alright, so this is going to be the first team that I'm going to be recommending for you, and this is going to be a more so a low budget, kind of a almost free to play-ish type of team. Of course, it really just depends on if you can pull these units. The only unit that you cannot pull actively is August, that's why I say almost free to play, but I will be giving you some other options that you can use to also help. So let's go ahead and talk about what options you can of course run and the reasons why we're running the direct units that we're running here today. Now, Bicorn, unfortunately, Bicorn is kind of unreplaceable for what we really need her for, and that is going to be for that reality shred. Even just 15% is still really good. The whole point of this team directly is just to make Semmelweis hit as hard as she can. So getting either a 15 or a 20% or even just a max of 25 is going to be really nice to help her kind of deal some damage with her follow-up, since it is a AoE attack, which is really nice. She can also put up some pretty decent single target damage with her own ultimate. Of course, it is at P5, so it's going to be a higher modifier, but if yours is at P0 or P3, whatever you may have on your Bicorn, that's still absolutely fine because it's still a decent modifier even at P0. So that's really just the main reason why I recommend Bicorn, is really just for this nice debuff for reality shred, and that's it. Now, August is actually a pretty interesting option. He is probably the most replaceable option, I would say, and I'll talk about why. But really the main reason why you want him is for his positional buffing. If you guys don't know, depending on where he is placed, he gets buffs to his teammates based on where he's placed. So he's in front of someone, like in this particular situation where he is in front of Bicorn and Semmelweis, he's going to provide them with passive buffs. So as you can see, if you look on his inheritances, as you can see, he grants things like damage delta, which stacks on top of Semmelweis, and to all enemies behind him, he can grant them damage taken reduction, which is great for someone like Yensei because it's going to help her survive. And then he also provides a attack plus 5% to every ally in the front, and damage taken minus 8%, which again, very good for our Yensei to have her survive. So that's really just what we really want him for, which is for the passive stat ups. His own buff isn't really going to be the greatest thing because he does provide 10% damage dealt up, but of course, since Semmelweis herself provides a higher amount just on start, this buff is pretty much unimportant. We do have him for the spell, which is also sort of helpful. It's like kind of shaky, not everything buffs, but it's helpful. And then we have the curing effect, which is effectively a small regen, which is really nice. It does actually provide a cure of up to 50% of his own attack. So again, pretty good. Of course, it goes up in more direction. It goes up in more turns. The higher tier you can get it, even just casting it for 1 star, get you 2 rounds of a regen, which is of course really good to kind of release some of that heal control from Yensei. Because remember, Yensei can only heal 1 and then an additional target, so sometimes you may need a full heal. So at least having August's regen can be helpful for a little bit of, at least somewhat of, keeping yourself healthy, especially in Semmelweis' case. Now Yensei is going to be here because she's going to be our main healer. She's going to provide a big shield, and of course she does have a debuff that can help decrease damage as well. Now this decreasing damage effect does not stack on top of Bicorn, so it's actually a different variant if I'm not mistaken. So it's damage taken plus 20%, and then this one is straight up just damage taken minus 20%. So it's a little bit of a weird text thing there. I saw people say, is that stack? I don't think it stacks. It's like kind of like a 2 different multiplier thing there. It's like damage dealt up and damage received. It's like 2 different things. So that's why they don't really infringe on each other. So that's what I was really trying to explain there. But really just the whole thing with Yensei is that she's going to be a really good potent single target healer that can grant sturdiness to the target. I mean, most of your healers is probably going to go to Semmelweis because she's going to be the one sapping away at her HP the most. So she's going to really need that healing support from Yensei. And of course, whenever you get the opportunity, you can pop the ultimate to get yourself a really big shield, which of course can allow you to be a little bit more aggressive with Semmelweis because again, you have a shield backing you up to keep you safe. So that's really just the best options for you guys on the low side of things. If you really want to replace someone, I would say again, replace August. The best unit I can actually recommend you with that's actually a lot better is actually going to be the free roguelike unit Lorelei. Lorelei gives you access to a critical defense up, I mean not a critical, well, she gives you access to a critical damage up buff and a damage taken reduction buff, which is actually really good. She also has the highest critical damage buff in the game, being a max of 45%. So if you really want to kind of capitalize more on an attack crit build on Semmelweis, which she can't actually build for, then this is an option for you. Not to even mention, Semmelweis does actually have the ability to buff crit rate with her own actions because of the new move, because of the fresh blood buff. So that's actually pretty helpful. I do actually recommend, if you can do roguelike and do the things that you need to do to get her unlocked, then I do actually recommend you get Lorelei. She's actually pretty good for this team because that's actually going to help Semmelweis dealing a little bit more damage overall, as opposed to just running someone like August. But again, if you want a little bit more sustained, then definitely August is the way to go. So this is going to be the second team that we're going to recommend for you guys here today, and this is going to be a team that again focuses on Semmelweis dealing as much damage as he can possibly deal, but this is going to be based around of her follow-up effect, a Truth Revealed. So if you guys don't know, her special follow-up attack, which is again called Truth Revealed, can have a stacking up effect for every ally that loses HP within an action, which grants it an additional 30% modifier of its base 80% modifier. So using the units that we use here, including Semmelweis herself, this can give her a 90% modifier buff off her skill if all of them act in the action before the attack is casted, which is of course really good. That's really why we really chose these specific set of units. Of course, we have Vila here to help give crit rate and critical damage up to Semmelweis, so of course help her deal a little bit more damage, but that is mainly going to be the thing here. So let's go over, of course, over our teammates and what they particularly do to help out this fact. So Eternity is here really just for the HP loss effect. That's really just it. You're not really looking at Eternity to be the main DPS of the team. As I mentioned before, again, you want Semmelweis to be doing most of the work, but really just Eternity is strictly here for the ability to lose HP on both of her skills, which is pretty easy. As you can see, Caster suffers current HP minus 10%. Caster loses 10% of HP on mass. So again, pretty much the only reason why you take Eternity. That's really just the only real synergy between the two. It really just makes Semmelweis' follow-up a little bit more potent and a little bit more stronger. Next up, we have Ezra. Ezra is here because he loses 15% of his own HP whenever he gets a critical buff from his mushroom. So whenever he plants the crit buff mushroom, which can give you Disconcernment, which is 40% crit damage, well, this is 15% HP loss, which of course helps Semmelweis' overall damage with the follow-up, which again, really nice. Now, unfortunately, I wanted to recommend someone else here, but they don't have the synergy to do so because of how Semmelweis works. Since Semmelweis has access to an array field, we unfortunately cannot run our boy GTN. I thought about running GTN just as another reality support option, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case because their array fields don't stack. While yes, this is technically a little bit of lesser HP that you can technically consume, but I was really looking at GTN really just for its ability to have a increased modifier on reality based skills, which is, I believe it's 40% that you can get, but it's 20% on everything else. So I was really looking to try to power up her ultimate as best way as I could, but this is probably the best of what I could come up with. If you don't have Ezra, there really isn't too many units in the game that actively self-sacrifice themselves, but of course other generic supports like Isolde, Anali, whatever support you can really throw into a team does work. I do think Isolde probably gives you the biggest benefit because you can get up to 75% damage dealt up, again making Semmelweis hit a little bit harder, so that is definitely helpful. And for heals, you can again primarily throw any healer you want. I just like Vila for the critical rate, critical damage buff, and of course for a unique Song of Passion, which can make Semmelweis' main attacking skill actually hit pretty hard. I mean, 550 with a 200% modifier boost. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, that's pretty strong. So that can allow her to at least hit pretty hard off the skill while she's getting ready to do the follow-up, which is very much helpful. So that's kind of why I particularly like this team in particular, but that's really just it. It's just more so just mostly everyone here is going to be losing HP, and that's just going to be serving to make her follow-up attacks deal a little bit more stronger damage. Alright, and in the final team here, we're going to be looking at a more universal support option for Semmelweis. This is going to be the team that you can particularly use. Now, of course, this being a universal support option, meaning that she does not have to have any real specific DPS in mind. You can use realistically any real DPS you want here. So, not just specifically one song. I mean, one song does get the best benefit based on this team's structure. But, of course, you can use Ju, you can use Spahosdia, you can use Lucy, you can use Kala, Marcus, whatever DPS you really have. The whole point of her is really just to provide them with damage dealt up, which is of course accessible from her buff effective means, which gives a maximum of 30% and another 10% damage dealt up to the ally that's in fresh blood, which she can also give someone to fresh blood, which gives critical rate plus 15% at every action that they have, which is really good because that stacks on top of the 20% crit rate that that Vila does give. So that's a really good way to really allow them to ensure crits. The main reason why this works the best with Windsong is because Windsong's main attacking skill has, of course, critical rate into critical damage conversion, which is, of course, meaning it's going to deal more damage. And, of course, she has the ability to expand Eureka to deal more mental damage on course over the course of her attacks, which of course can deal a lot of damage. So yeah, but you can really run really anybody, and you're probably wondering, why is that fourth slot blank? Well, the fourth slot I'm actually going to be recommending for this is actually going to be Kakania. Kakania is not yet released, but she will be releasing in the second half of the anniversary patch. So you should be able to get your hands on her in about a few more weeks or so. But what she's going to be here for is going to be offering a flat attack up buff, and she's going to be able to actively help reduce the damage taken for the entire team as a part of her main gimmick, with of course with the whole empathy gimmick. And yeah, so that's why I do recommend her the most, because this is going to be a really good way to help mitigate Semmelweis's overall ability, a kind of risky-ish type of playstyle in this effective means, because of course her array field is taking away your HP, her buff is actively taking away the HP of your main DPS, and for those more harder stages like main's bulletin, where you have to be a little bit more conscious of your HP, then that's why I'm recommending Kakania, because this is going to be a better option for you to help survive those hard stages. So that's why I'm recommending her over anybody else. And yeah, that's it. But those are the teams that I have in mind for Semmelweis. I will probably level her up at some point and raise her and actually do a showcase. I'm just very low on resources right now, so because I used most of them on Lucy. So, but anyway, I hope you guys do enjoy. Let me know what type of teams you'll cook up with Semmelweis in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.